Hi, Bill Koch back again here in Grafton, Wisconsin. Grafton holds a special place in our hearts as really the founding race of Tour of America's Dairyland. I'll let Jim Brunnquell tell you a little bit more about that, but Jim is the village president, the Grafton Village president actually, and has been around for a long time. Started this event actually 2 years before Tour of America's Dairyland started. And so without further ado, I'm going to introduce Jim and fire right into the very first question, which is, Jim, what kind of energy is derived from having a bike race in the village of Grafton for the people that live here and for the community itself?
Well, that's a great question. I think that when we first started looking at a professional bike race, we tried to match it into where we were going with our branding at the time, which was Quality Life Grafton. And we think that, the natural, the event of, bike riding and then evolving into a bike race was just something that would promote what we were trying to do in the community as a whole. So, we never knew it was going to grow into something this big, but it was something that we believed in as a community, that it was a good fit for what we were trying to do for our community as a whole.
And you think you've attained that success? I mean, now we're, what, 14 years into bike races in Grafton?
Yeah, I think so. I think the community has not only seen it as a positive event for themselves, but it's, as far as, embracing what we're trying to do as a community and the brand, but it also is an event that showcases the downtown, which is, again, something that we've been working on since 1999. So again, it's a way for us to basically promote the brand and then also promote our downtown with a quality event.
Fantastic. Well, Jim, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. We appreciate you guys inviting Todd back 12 straight years. We'll be back if you want us back, and we're so appreciative of the support you've given us over the years.
Well, thank you much, Bill.
Thanks
it's always a pleasure.
You got it.
Thank you.
We have in front of us right now John Safstrom. John is the Director of Parks and Recreation for another couple of hours.
6 days, actually.
6 days. Been with the Village of Grafton for 28 years. And like Jim Brunnquell, has been involved in the Giro de Grafton since day one. And in even the 2 years prior to that, when they started the race before Tour of America's Dairyland started. So we're here welcoming John to the stage at Paramount Square right here in Grafton. And the question right out of the gate, similar to Jim's, was what's the energy and the vibe? How do you make that connection between hosting a bike race and what it does for the community of Grafton and the people that live here, John?
I think early on we just tried to do the little extra things that would get the people out, maybe some kids events, and get the adults down here to see the race itself. I don't think a lot of people have ever seen a professional bike race, but once you get here, I think they're all in. So it was, to us, it was a matter of getting them downtown first. And then once they were here, they saw that the bike race itself, the energy is undeniable, but you got to get here first.
Thank you, John, for being with us. Thanks for all your support in Grafton over all these years. We'll look forward to seeing you in the summer of 2021.
Very good. Thank you.
Our special guest this time is, I don't know if he'd refer to me as a dear friend, but I call him a dear friend. He's been a constant contributor since Tour of America's Dairyland started. He helped start Tour of America's Dairyland. We have John Safstrom and Jim Brunnquell that sort of gave the blessing and support, but Michael Martens is with us, and he's really the visionary behind bringing a bike race to Grafton and organizing it and doing all the logistics work and racing it, and yeah, it goes on and on and on.
I moved here before that, so I moved here in 2002, I think it was, 2001. I walked the whole course, knocked on all the doors, got plenty of doors slammed in my face. People thought I was nuts. I did it when I lived in Cedarburg. I used to watch bike racing as a kid in Appleton. That got me all enamored with it. And then a late friend who passed away, Jeff Lippman, came to me in 2006 and said, "We got some money. Do you want to put a race on?" And I was like, wow. I did some Wisport directing. I used to be a director of a Wisport race out in West Bend. I was like, there was already a gap there. And I wasn't sure if I wanted to do it, but I figured, hey, why not? It was a big chunk of money. So I actually made a few phone calls to a few friends, and one being Billy Akowitz, and said, I can't do this alone. And he was running the state crit in Elkhorn, and I said, let's move that up here. Well, it didn't become the state crit. It just became a standalone event by itself in 2007. So.
Right. When you went to the village of Grafton and said, "Hey, let's do this bike race," what did you want to? What was the value Grafton was going to derive from having a bike race here?
Was to try and bring something back to downtown that wasn't here. There was no downtown here. We're standing in front of a completely remodeled apartment building that was an original blues hotel for Grafton, a lot of history here. And there was not a lot going on down here. Not much at all, actually. And I just looked at it as an opportunity to bring some notoriety here, bring the race here. I thought it'd be kind of cool. You know, I remember pitching it because I thought my idea was to have a twilight criterium like Athens, Georgia. So I took Jim Brunnquell down to watch the old Super Week, which is part of Todd now, the Downer race, in my old Volkswagen Beetle, a 2001 Beetle, and we drove down there and I showed him around, and that was the first experience he had ever had with bike racing. And this race would not have happened without his a huge help. I mean, Jim really stepped to the plate to make sure that this was going to happen. And the name that always sticks out with me is Jeff Lippman and Jeff Larson. Jeff Larson was the president of Port Washington State Bank, and that's the history of it. They brought the money. I kind of was just the clown that juggled it all together for them. You can't do it without a giant group of sponsors, but ultimately the communities can really benefit from it in the long run because there's so much activity. It draws so many people into the community. Our first year we had an ice cream social, a barbecue contest, 3 bands on the stage we're standing on, a big wheel race, face painting competitions. We had our famous mascot race, which was, I think it was the 2nd or 3rd year that we did that. Yeah. But we try and involve a lot of the businesses to make things a little more exciting and to bring a little more notoriety to the area. In the end, I mean, we have a really great course. I mean, it's truly it's an impressive course because it's almost like a miniature road race. It's got a little bit of a climb in it, it's got some downhill, it's got a great big place to relax in, and then it's got a little bit of technical corners here and there in it, but ultimately it's a great course, and it's just a nice draw for both the riders and the community itself.
Sure. It's definitely one of the rider favorites. We know that from surveys. So, some special memories. You've got something in your hands here, so you've been around a long time with this.
Day one, first year poster. Memories? Oh man, I have so many great memories. I remember the pouring rain that came through here on about I think it was our 2nd year. It wasn't even part of Toad then. Watching all the barricades tip over in the road and my wife and I picking it up. I remember picking up the barricades in the pouring rain with one other friend. I remember dragging the lights around the very first year. A lot of that stuff is before Toad, but my good memories are involving Toad too, around the races that I take part in all the time. I'm pack-fill now that I'm older. But I enjoy every part of that.
Well, Michael, we thank you for your vision back in 2006 and before. We thank you for your continued passion and support. Michael also has helped design many of our t-shirts, continues to work with us on that front. So we're really thankful that you joined us today here in Grafton, where it all started, and we'll keep talking to you as we head towards 2021.
And I'm super excited about 2021. Excellent. I'll be back again.
There you go.
I'm on the twilight side of my career, but I'll be there.
Okay. Well, thanks again, Michael.
Thanks, man.
All right. Boom. We are here in Grafton, Wisconsin, which is home of the Giro de Grafton, also one of our twilight criteriums. And today, Todd Busteed has had a conversation with Will Grouix. Will is one of the members of the Paralyzed Veterans of America and a top-notch, world-class hand cyclist. The hand cyclists have been here for 3 years now. So here's Todd talking a little bit with Will.
Toad on the road. We're talking about Grafton, one of the venues that's been with us from the start and supersedes the Toad series to go back to Super Week. So we're glad to have it on the menu. We're also glad to have some fantastic racing in the hand cycling category. Now, paracycling encompasses all the different types of cycles, but hand cycling is actually what we've been doing. And joining us is Will Grouix. Will has quite the paramours. Let's talk about, first of all, with Toad. So we were fortunate enough to host 2 national championships in Toad for hand cycling. You won them both. Tell us about your trajectory into hand cycling. You were in the Navy for 6 years, I believe.
I was, yes. And then and I had my accident that resulted in my spinal cord injury in August of 2000. And sports was always a big part of my life, and I got back into sporting right away. Was introduced to a lot of things in rehab, but what I did fall in love with immediately was wheelchair rugby, and that was kind of my sport of choice for a dozen years. I competed for a long time, started playing in 2001, and was able to go to the Paralympics 3 different times for wheelchair rugby in Athens, Beijing, and London.
All right, so let's talk about the Olympics, because in addition to that, you also threw Rio into the mix in cycling. So you've got 4 Olympic appearances. And if my math is correct, you've got a nice set, 2, 2, and 2. 2 gold.
I do.
2 silver and bronze. Now, I'm going to give you credit for foresight, because you also have twins, Grace and William. So you ended up getting a full set for each one of your kids. How brilliant are you?
I'd have to say, as is probably the case most times, I'm better lucky than good.
John Haupt was a big part of putting together this series. John, thank you for that help. And then we put together the series in Grafton, was one of those venues. Will, what does it mean for you to come into a series right here in the States, put on so you can show off your prowess, talk about those connections that you mentioned, post-Olympics, to be able to influence and encourage? What does it mean to have a series like this put on in Wisconsin?
You know, I was unable to make it to the first times that hand cycling was introduced at Toad, but I just heard from teammates and other racers that how great of an event it was, and with the kind of our international schedule, it's hard to get things on the kind of on the schedule, but I made sure to try and make it out to that event, and boy, I was so glad that I did. It really is a special event for us. A lot of times with paracycling and hand cycling, it's like racing at a small local crit. You know, there's not a lot of fanfare. You're just going out there, and there's a few racers out, but we're doing it because we love the sport. Not doing it for the fans or recognition or anything like that. And but it is pretty special to see that and have that, and to be welcomed in such a way into an event, such a great established event. Is pretty awesome.
So this is the beauty of Toad. We're racing in Grafton, hometown America, middle of Wisconsin. We've got a 4-time Olympian coming and ripping it up, and we couldn't be happier about it. Will, on behalf of the partners, the race, Grafton, and all the venues, so jazzed to have you a part of the series. Thank you for hanging out with us right now, celebrating Toad on the road, and we're looking forward to seeing you race some more, Will.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Well, that's going to wrap it up from here. On behalf of all the partners, the folks that work so hard at the venues, the racers that enjoy the great state of Wisconsin and crit racing during the Tour of America's Dairyland, I'm Todd Busteed. Thanks for hanging out with us here on Toad on the Road.